So this is the part we use as medicine, the outer bark. And it does no harm to these plants to go up and prune at junctions of laterals going out, come to the main stem, or go all the way to the bottom and prune at the base. For those bigger ones, you need loppers to truly do that. It's predominantly done as a fresh bark extract. And so this bark is chopped up in as small pieces as you can possibly get, good quarter, 8-inch size pieces, and it's done as a 1 to 2 fresh bark, fresh plant extract. And if you're going to use Ocotillio as a tea, you can only really use the last 10 inches of a tip, and never, like, if the tip where the flowers are at, see the flower tops, you can actually make a bark tea, but really only the last 10 inches of the tip of the new growth. Because otherwise you're going to get very irritating, caustic resins that are going to burn your throat. So in real herbal medicine, in the sense of like making tinctures using Ocotillio clinically, and that doesn't mean there's less than real, but you know, like if you really want the strong medicine of Ocotillio to truly affect the lymph system, we tend to only use fresh bark extract. People do make the tea, but I recommend you never really go down into the gnarly bark part, because your clients and you're going to start experiencing the burning of the mouth. So it's not normally a tea plant, and I normally don't even talk about that aspect, but I decided I might as well, because some people want to stay tea, you know, they want to do teas and such. But really, I'm serious, stay within the first 10 inches of the new growth at the tips. And so in that case, it wouldn't really be nice to the plant to take the first 10 inches. So look for really short ones growing close that you can maybe go out with someone who wants to make fresh bark extract, and you want to make tea. So you get all the tips and they get the bark, or you get really small ones from shorter Ocotillos where you can actually take the tip. And you should still prune properly, and then go ahead and save your sticks, because those sticks, when they clean up and they get polished, are great for rattles and handles and drum handles and for all kinds of beautiful things. It's a beautiful, beautiful wood. And in fact, I have a friend who just asked me, he's like, hey, can you save me your next batch of Ocotillio, because I ran out of rattle handles. And he's a native guy who's, you know, world famous, makes museum pieces, and he uses Ocotillio wood for his turtle rattles and such. And they're in museums all over the world. So it's kind of cool. You know, I'm collecting the medicine. These handles are going off to make rattles. It's nice.
You just set it out to dry and then sand, or?
I just send him pieces like that. That's his job, to sand it down and stuff like that. You know, I'll scrape all this off before I send it to him. It'll be dry when I send it to him, and I'll send him. You know, I would send him like the thicker pieces of that.
And alcohol percent?
As high as you can get. Yeah, for this. There's a lot of resins in this plant that really need to be broken down. It's beautiful emerald green color. Beautiful emerald green color. Tincture, one of the prettiest green colors.
What form?
It's coming.
Let me see if I'm lower than
Patience. Huh? It's not that the Ocotillio won't affect all the upper, you know, it won't affect all your limb, but it just seems to have a lower intestinal, helping with malabsorptions of oils and fats, and seems to really help with pelvic and uterine and prostate and extremity congestion, more pronounced than red root does. But two of our finest and safest lymphatics are red root and Ocotillio. Any of the species of Ceanothus or the red root, and Focaria splendens or Ocotillio. They are like amazing, and they do form for me a very cornerstone pair of medicines to treat a lot of chronic problems. They are the other side of my coin. abstract-wise. The other side of the coin, one side is anti-inflammatories like yerba manzа and turmeric, and the other side of that coin is lymphatics, and it's red root and Ocotillio. And honestly, those three plants can do 90% of your work in most of your formulas. It doesn't really matter if you're working with the immune system, you're working with long-term problems. I believe in our culture, you've heard me say it, the chronic inflammatory congestion is an insulin problem. And so those are my findings. Some people might have others. Those are the ones I've seen do amazing things, because that's just kind of the end result of like the world we live in, the diet we eat, the stress we carry is lymphatic congestion and chronic inflammation.
And you extract, you tincture with thorns and all that's all part of it.
Yeah, tincture. Yeah, when you got a hammer and you're most of the thorns are already broken, banged down, you tincture everything. Yeah.
And you tincture fresh.
Tincture fresh, using 95 to 97% alcohol, which means like lymphatically, you can use this to treat hemorrhoids, truly eliminate hemorrhoid problems, varicose veins, pelvic congestion that may be leading to prostrate pigweed enlargement and prostate enlargement, and I just kind of trying to that I can say that at the same
The bark, but not the
What's that?
not the pulp.
You can take the full bulk and tincture it up too. Yeah, absolutely. I do it when I have a knife and I'm collecting a whole bunch. There's no reason. You can use all that.
And you say you're using a rock right now, but you use a hammer? Did you say that, or did I just make that up? You
No.
use a rock.
You have to use a
Or
rock.
a hammer.
You have to take
Never use a
tons
hammer.
of rocks to really sticks.
No, paleo country. We're in paleo days.
I get home, I take this. Yeah, because it hurts when you mash your finger and you have to pay attention.
If I were
So a
to,
hammer is really good.
How many pieces per plant?
Like that plant 3 was most I would ever take from that. Most likely 2, and then move on to the next one. And but let's see how many arms we got. Let's just say 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. So 3 would be great.
if I cut a branch and I got home in 2 days, is that still fresh enough to?
This is one of those great plants where you could actually take it and leave it whole on the stem. Like say you get some nice stems and you want to keep them for some art project or some memento or some talisman or like some rattle handle. Just cut them like this and maybe bash the spines a little bit before you put them in a box, mail them home, or just store them away. See, that's that new growth that I was talking about. And
Yeah, that's nice.
that's really good for tea. And
But I could debark it at home in 2 days and still make a fresh tincture.
10 days.
Great.
As long as you didn't get direct sunlight, let's 10 days would be pushing it, but a week for sure. It's amazing because this plant here, we could lay that out, let this kind of scab over. We can stick this in the ground, and guess what happens? A new Ocotillio plant will grow.
How is
So
it?
it's very viable for a long time, which has taught me that the bark is okay for 5 to 6 days. So it's like you don't have to raise to touch it. It's gonna feel like you do something.
It's a low desert.
Yeah. So it's like fibrocystic breast disease, uterine fibroids, just people who are kind of feeling stuck and bloated and putting on weight down here that might be a small intestine malabsorption problem. And this is really marvelous for that. And also takes the pressure off the liver. The blood viscosity gets better, thinner blood, and more impurities out. And so I believe this strengthens the male and female reproductive organs, the kidneys really well, and the lower intestinal tract, and the entire circulatory lymphatic circulatory, especially, return. You know, and that's very good. You know, you're not as stuck down in here, and things are flowing in and out and kind of and profound, because we tend to have those problems in our culture very distinctly. And I've used this as a great gynecological female reproductive strengthening tool for a lot of women who really were not infertile, or were not, you know, they had problems conceiving, but we needed to peel some layers back to put some strength and lymphatic improvement, dietary improvement, circulatory improvement, hormonal balancing. But this has been a player in a lot of as a tonic for strengthening male and female reproductive system. It works really well with like saw palmettoberry and things for men for strengthening the prostate. And
as a tonic, then what kind of dosage?
it's always going to probably be mixed with other things. So let's instead of like if you had straight Ocotillio because you had a great need for it, it might be 15 to 20 drops 3 times a day for a couple months on end. No problem, no worries. 30 drops 3 times a day for 2 months is kind of like a nice tonic, strengthening, and really rebuilding and creating good lymph system. If it's going in a formula of 3 or 4 other herbs, it might be the main or secondary herb, so it might comprise 30-40% of the formula, and maybe other things in the formula are necessary for the specific person, so who knows what they might be, but it almost would encompass 30 to 50% of a formula, and then the other herbs would make up the difference, because it's important to have in there, and it's important to have a lot of that in there.
So when I've made a tea with it, I've just poured boiling water over it and let it steep. And I wasn't sure if that was good enough.
For me, I'd have it chopped up. We're talking dry Ocotillio, right?
Yeah.
Dry Ocotillio chopped up. I would like a boiling thing going. I'd throw in my Ocotillio. I'd look at it for 5 seconds and turn off the heat source. So I would see it roll 1 or 2 moments, and then I'd cover it and come back in an hour before I would even drink it. Let it steep.
I had a feeling I wasn't.
And you can shorten all that by the more you chop it up fine. If it's giant chunks, you're going to have to let it steep a few hours before you really drink it. Okay. But you really don't want to subject it to lots of boiling. Just bring your water to a boil, throw it in there, and watch it kind of like turn it off, cover it, and that's provided it's chopped into pieces like that. Come back in 20-30 minutes, and you got a nice medicine tea at that point in time. Yeah, I mean, think in terms like when you're steeping, making teas. If things are like tight, molecularly bound together, they need heat and long-term steeping, because water is a weak solvent. And we make water a stronger solvent by making it hot. And so the best way to use water as a solvent is to give water and the herb lots of time together. And it can be a lot. You could steep things for an hour if you want a good, it's like some of these things that have a tight molecular structure that they're bound, they need an hour of steeping in just boiled water. That takes 20-30 minutes to cool down, and then another 20 minutes of sitting in that, because that's just pulling and pulling. Things like flowers and leaves, yeah, you don't have to let them, they don't need an hour, I mean, we all know that. Tea bag of green tea in 5 minutes, 5 minutes or less, we've got tea. Roots and barks that are really gnarly with oils and resins and that are just tight, molecularly tight, need to be like put in hot water, and then just so that they can open up and then they can release their medicine, and that takes time to do that. So.
One of the things we do in the organic chemistry class, there's one process that we found for roots, that if we bring it to a simmer and turn it off, bring it to a simmer again, turn it off, and you heat it and cool it 3 times.
Yeah, I sometimes do that too.
And
yeah.
For some reason, and
Yeah.
I don't even know why, but for some reason doing it